Jay here for Stretford Paddock. This is Academy Review. Joining me, as always, is Finn, otherwise known as Academy Scoop on socials. How are we, brother?
Yeah, very good.
Yeah?
A little bit bored during the international break, obviously, but we've got some stuff to talk about. So.
Yeah, it's a slog in at the international break. The first couple of days, the first few days is fine because it's not feel that much different than a normal week. But then once you get into towards the end of the week and there's no United game to look forward to, there's no
the
preview.
Scholes, Lampard, Gerrard debates start coming.
Yeah, and then the people are struggling for news and articles and stuff, and it's just a bit like, oh my god. And then you have another week of it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
It's like, oh, this is just so good. Anyway, we don't want to depress anyone. We're almost there, gang. Yeah, we've got through it together. And now we're going to talk about my favourite topic, because you usually cheer me up, the academy. What do you want to talk about then? Because in terms of the international break, it's been an interesting one, hasn't it, for the academy? Because
yeah, I think
there's a lot going on.
There's been a lot going on. We've got some players impressing in training. We've got a couple of signings to talk about, or potential signings.
Yep.
And eventually, I think we'll touch on the comments made by Sir Jim Ratcliffe, because that can't be overlooked.
No,
but we'll start.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, we'll start with some recent news of a lot of academy involvement in first team training.
Yeah.
With Ruben Amorim. So Amorim gave the players that had been called up to international duty, some of the first teamers, a few more days off. And so a lot of the academy players were called upon. So we had Chido Obi, Shea Lacey, Bendito Mantato, Sam Mather, Tyler Fletcher, Jacob Devaney, Jim Thwaites and Reece Monroe, all involved in first team training.
I think if you had your way, Finn, they'd be involved in the first team. I'm like,
and I think
that's like a host of players I've heard you talk about, for quite a while now, and rightly so.
Yeah, so really good to see, a significant academy presence there. Great experience for them. Really important for Amorim to be seeing face to face what these players are capable of, and hopefully pushing a few of them closer to the first team. I think the one that everyone's talking about right now is, of course, Shea Lacey. There's really kind of a head of steam gathering around him and his proximity to the first team. Something else notable that was that while he was training with England's under-20s for their international friendly, he got called upon by Tommy Tuchel to train with the England first team, which was a really, really encouraging sign. At the end of the day, it doesn't mean too much because it's fairly common for this to happen, but still really amazing experience. And, apparently he really impressed, which doesn't surprise me at all. We know the quality that he possesses and what he's capable of doing on the ball. There's definitely excitement building around him. And there is the feeling within the club that, if anyone's really close to a first team debut right now, it could be him. A debut could be on the not too distant horizon.
We could do with that, couldn't we? I know you don't just dish out debuts like confetti. You have to earn it. But I feel like, I don't know, it just feels like United in the academy at the minute, the first team in the academy, there's a bit of a gap there.
There's a disconnect.
Disconnect is a perfect word, thank you. Where we've always had this, and I know I've repeated this a million times, so forgive me, where we've had one or two regular first team starters who are from the academy, whether that's Ryan Giggs or Scholes or Beckham, or whether it's been Marcus Rashford or Scott McTominay or Kobbie Mainoo. There's always been at least one or two.
Yeah.
Now we haven't got any who start. Plus you've not got that many on the bench. And it just feels a little bit like, what's going on with the academy? And I feel like when you see that there's one or two who are knocking on the door and it gets everyone excited, it just helps, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's a kind of weird contrast at the moment between the fact that United's under-18s and under-21s are performing as well as they have in recent years.
Yeah.
They've been really competitive at the top level against, competing against any other academy in the country, and yet we're seeing less involvement, and we're seeing Amorim not really leaning on these academy players who, in my opinion, could make a really positive impact. And it surprised me just from a kind of morale point of view, because when results aren't going your way, one thing that can get the fans on your side, especially as a Manchester United manager, is giving young academy players a chance. So obviously we've had Kobbie Mainoo and Alejandro Garnacho kind of carrying the torch for the academy in the last few years. They've been kind of the only main really significant first teamers who have come out of the academy. Obviously won the FA Youth Cup together and then went on to basically win United the FA Cup, which is a great story. But obviously Garnacho's gone elsewhere and Kobbie Mainoo isn't being favoured at the moment, which for me is incredibly frustrating because it doesn't even feel like a quality issue. It's a kind of suitability issue given the constraints of Amarim's system, but we could talk about that for days. But yeah, like you said, there is a gap. There's a weird disconnect. And I think Shea Lacey and the kind of excitement gathering around him could offer a kind of a way back and bring the academy and the first team closer together in terms of kind of rekindling that pathway and that connection at the moment, because there's a different, the club feels different when the academy isn't at the heart of it and isn't playing a key role. Nathan Salt put out a good article in the last week about Shea Lacey's conversations with Ruben Amorim in first team training. Apparently he's really impressing coaches both with his ability and his work ethic, his approach to training and recovery. And it does seem like, you know, a debut could be on the horizon. And I think with AFCON approaching, it's in you know, late December to early January. I think with Ahmad and Mbumo obviously going to be absent during that period, it could be a really, really good opportunity for some right-sided players, Lacey, Mantato, to be getting some opportunities. So fingers crossed that happens.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything you said. When people talk about United DNA, and I've had this conversation so many times over the years, it isn't a certain style or a certain tactic or even a certain way of playing. I know you might argue, we want to play attacking football, we play to win and all that sort of stuff, but almost any club can say that. That's part of their DNA. Yeah. The one thing that makes Manchester United different from practically any other club in England is this connection with our academy. It's been there since the Busby Babes. Then you can have, you know, the Fergie fledglings, as they were called. It's been there post Sir Alex Ferguson. It has always been a huge part of this club. With that record we've got going back to the 1930s, where we've always had, I think it's the 1930s, a member of the first team squad who's come through the academy. There's a reason that we have this connection. There's a reason why United is synonymous with the academy. And also, we're one of the few clubs in the world, in European history, who've won a Champions League with a load of players who came through the academy. And we've done that, I think we've done it 3 times. Every time we've won a European Cup or a Champions League, you've had a big chunk of that team that came through the academy, whether that's...
Several Ballon d'Or winning academy graduates.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you know.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, whether that's been Bobby Charlton and George Best and Bill Falks, or whether that's been David Beckham and Giggs or whoever, there's always been those players that have come through the academy and have played their part. So it matters a lot, doesn't it?
Should we talk about Sir Jim Ratcliffe's comments now?
Yeah, well, I think we should. I think we should get into it, because just for those who don't know, Finn, just to sort of tell us what Sir Jim Ratcliffe said.
Yeah, so he's been talking to the media, and there were some, what I believe are really kind of reckless, throwaway comments that he made about the academy. He said, the academy's really slipped at Manchester United. You need the academy to be producing talent all the time. It helps you financially, and you have to have a certain number of British players in your squad. He said some other things, but that was kind of the main gist of it. And I am pretty baffled that he'd say something like this for a number of reasons, but I think it speaks to this disconnect that we're currently feeling. I think a lot of people within the club feel like right from the ownership down, the academy is being overlooked and kind of undermined at the moment. And I think that first part, saying the academy has slipped at Manchester United, is an outright lie. I think the only argument you could make is that it's slipped since INEOS' arrival.
Yeah.
But I'd strongly argue that in the last 5-6 years, under the leadership of Nick Cox, who's obviously now departed from the club, the academy has been the only department of the club that's consistently performed at least near to the standards that you'd expect of Manchester United. And I think it's been the shining light of the club amidst a time where the first team has consistently underperformed and failed to meet the standards that, you know, we know and expect at the club. So these comments are really out of touch and quite reckless in terms of the consequences that they could have, both in terms of staff morale, in terms of the perception, because, you know, you've got young players, parents who are key to the decision-making process in terms of whether they stay at the club or whether they join the club. Comments like these do no one at the club any good. So.
No, you couldn't be more right. I mean, I don't get it. I don't get why you think that in the first place after everything you've said, unless you've been lying to me for the past 18 months, and unless, you know, the internet's been lying to me and my own eyes have been lying to me. The academy has been fantastic and it's been producing some really good players. Now, you might not have as many players from the academy in the first team squad. Doesn't mean the academy isn't doing its job. It is, and it has been performing at a level we expect. And also, like you've just said there, what message are you sending out to everyone? What are you telling your coaching staff? What are you telling those young players? when you've got the minority shareholder giving interviews basically saying it's not good enough. And the parents thing is massive. I know parents who've got kids who are in academies or who are looking at academies. I've got good mates of mine who've got lads who are at United or one or two at City, and it's like these things play into your mind. Not everyone is a die-hard United fan who is determined their son or daughter must play for Manchester United. Some people make decisions based on what they think is best. Well, every parent should make a decision what they think is best for their kid and their kid's development, etc. So if you see someone saying, who's a bit of an authority at United, saying, well, the academy is not very good, you can think, well, I won't send my kid there. I'll send him to City or Liverpool or whatever. Just stupid. Yeah. Just a stupid comment. Like you say, out of touch is being kind, but that is one way we can term it. And I just don't get it. I don't get what he thought he would achieve with that. And also even the whole, it helps you financially. I know, we're not all naive. We get that good players come through the academy, and if they do well, if they don't make it in the Manchester United first team, you can sell them. I understand all that. But when you start just vocalising it and making it sound like it's just purely a business thing, I think it's not great.
I think the financial aspect should always be a kind of helpful byproduct of the players that maybe are good enough to play at Premier League level or Championship level, but not necessarily in United's first team, and maybe you make a little bit of money off their departure. But you've still produced a top level player, you've still produced a good person, hopefully according to United's ethos, and it should never be the primary goal of the academy. And I'm not saying he's saying it is, but the comments almost kind of frame it in that way, that the focus of the United Academy is to be making money and to help balance the books. It's just, it doesn't make sense. You
know what? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go on. Sorry, finish your thought.
Well, just like we've said, there's been significant turnover in terms of staff. There's been Nick Cox, Adam Lawrence, and now Luke Fedorenko, who, for those who don't know, was the head of academy recruitment at United, has played a really, really important role behind the scenes in recent years, bringing some of the best players across the country to the club. He's now moving on to a new role. These are really important people who, I'm not saying that their departure is directly linked to the way that Sir Jim Ratcliffe is handling the academy, but making comments like those and the way they've approached these things, it really doesn't help. I was also going to mention, with all the positivity of the new training ground and the new infrastructure they're putting in at Carrington, which is definitely a positive, you want the club to be investing, it's kind of gone under the radar that as a result of that, United's under-18s and under-21s have been temporarily relocated to cabins near the car park. They haven't really been factored into that infrastructure process. And of course, there are now plans to make a new kind of purposed academy facility for the under-18s and the under-21s, but God knows how long that will take. It's just a really kind of careless oversight for me on a number of levels. So yeah, really, really frustrating.
It's all right. It's okay not to say anything about a certain subject, especially if you're not well versed on it. I mean, it beggars belief that someone who's an intelligent and successful man is saying something so fucking stupid. Like you say, he doesn't need to say that. You don't need to say anything like that. And if you haven't got anything good to say about the academy, don't say anything.
I'd hope that he'd revise those comments at some point. But
he's surrounded by yes men, though, Finn. You're right. But he'll have everyone telling him how wonderful he is and how great it is that he said that. I doubt he's actually got anyone in his ear saying you shouldn't have said that. I think he needs that. Someone should say, that wasn't a good idea to say that, and it's wrong. Not only is it wrong, it's harmful.
It's going against his cause.
Yeah, and like you say, you need to revise those comments and maybe give another interview saying, you know what, I was a bit, hasty with that, but he won't. I'd be amazed if he did, because I think he'll just probably have people patting him on the back, telling him how wonderful he is. Let's talk about something a little bit more cheerier.
Yes.
United have, and this isn't anything wholly new, we have always bought young players in and bought young players, but it does seem like this is something that INEOS are embracing, and we've seen it in certain parts of the world as well, and that's continuing to happen of late.
Yeah, I think that's definitely been a focus of INEOS in terms of the kind of emerging talent bracket of recruitment. So we've brought in players like Diego Leon, Aidan Heaven, Sekou Kone, and a couple of others around this age for relatively low fees, within the kind of 1 to 5 million range. So low risk, high rewards. That's the kind of philosophy of these signings. We've made another one in Christian Orozco, Colombian midfielder, 17 years of age. We've agreed a deal for him to join in July 2026 after he turns 18 in accordance with Brexit rules. And yeah, I think this is quite positive. Obviously, the midfield is an area that you'd look at the first team and say needs the most work. So to be recruiting both young players and ready-made players, hopefully in the near future, is a good way to kind of future-proof that area of the pitch and hopefully improve it. Looks like a player who's highly regarded, seemed to be quite talented. I can't say I've watched tons of him, but I was able to look over some of his performances at the Under-17 South American Championships, where he played predominantly as kind of a lone pivot in possession, likes to play behind the ball with the game ahead of him, pick up the ball from the centre-backs and look to progress play. Got quite a good passing range, can clip balls out to the wingers really nicely, and also quite physically developed for his age. Stands out in that department. He's got that kind of stereotypical South American grit to him, like most midfielders in that region you'd associate with. Maybe a bit of a lazy comparison because he resides from the same nation, but there are kind of similarities to what I saw in Moises Caicedo at the same age when we were originally looking to sign him many years ago. And so it almost feels like we're righting the wrongs of that whole situation. But yeah, I think it's enthusing to see that United are looking to recruit within this age bracket. He fits the bill in terms of the modern kind of defensive midfielder profile that you'd want United to go after. Obviously still needs to be tested at a high level. He's only kind of played at under-17, under-18 level. So I'm yet to see whether he can kind of evade pressure when get in small spaces, when pressed more intensely. In this competition that I watched him for, there wasn't much pressure on him receiving between the centre-backs. So there's definitely more to see from him, and I think in the months leading up to his actual transfer next year, we'll be able to see that and kind of assess it better. But for the £1 million that United are paying, seems like a good deal.
Yeah, definitely. I like what you're saying there as well, because the Moises Caicedo thing is always brought up in it. We could have jumped through those hoops to get him signed. I think there was a lot of sort of shenanigans going on with third-party ownership and everything. It was like, is it too much, too stressful, and just you can't make this work. Brighton obviously made it work and ended up with a £100 million midfielder. And
there's always the argument that we may not have developed him in the same way that Brighton did. No, I get that, because
the chances of him coming straight into the Manchester United first team and being afforded 2 seasons, whatever it was, remote at best. But I at least like the idea of, for want of a better expression, almost hedging your bets and going, okay, let's get some of these youngsters in, and if we can develop more, if they can loan them out or however it is, it could be worth it for the long term. There was another player I think you wanted to talk about that's sort of up in the air at the time of recording as to whether we're going to be able to get this deal done. It did feel like we were going to, but I think it's just stalled slightly, so we'll have to wait and see, but certainly a player that you've had your eye on.
Mohamed Dabo, Senegalese midfielder, quite actually a similar profile to Christian Orozco. He spent September on trial with United. He's also been invited to trial at Barcelona, where apparently he impressed as well, and they've been looking to sign him. So a very highly rated midfielder, said to be very intelligent in terms of his positioning and also his decision making. Got strong physical qualities and really strong on the ball, good passing range. Many similar qualities to Orozco actually, and definitely the kind of modern profile of defensive midfielder that top clubs are after. It did look at one point like United were ready to kind of formalise the deal and follow the steps in terms of making that official, although there has been some doubt cast over whether it will happen. Christopher Michel, a German journalist who tends to be very well informed on these deals. He was very early to report United's interest in Sekou Kone last summer before Fabrizio Romano and others. He says that this now looks unlikely, so we'll have to see whether it ends up going through. But it's still I think it's still fairly open-ended and still possible. United definitely like the player, think he's highly rated and fits what they're looking for in terms of age and profile. So we'll see. We'll have to see what happens there. But definitely an interesting one, and kind of supports this theme of United going after low cost, high potential talents that could eventually have an impact on the first team.
That feels like almost the opposite of what we've done post Alex Ferguson. Low cost, high potential. We've usually done high cost and low ability. If you look at some of the signings we've done over the years since Alex Ferguson retired, up until recently, of course, I love all the signings we've made of late that are currently in the first team. Listen, Finn, it's always a pleasure chatting to you. You're going to be on the channel a lot more over the coming weeks. I think you'll be on watch-alongs and podcasts and all that stuff.
Absolutely.
Make sure you are following Finn on your socials at Academy Scoop, and it does what it says on the tin. It gives you all the latest updates on Academy players, and also it's interesting to see when you've got players like Shea Lacey who aren't a million miles away from the first team, just how they're developing and how they're getting on. So big thank you to you, Finn, for coming on the channel as always.
Thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure. That's been Finn. I've been Jay. This has been Academy Review. Don't forget to hit like, share and subscribe. Thanks for watching.